We have a special edition tonight and a very special guest as we're going to talk about Native American heroes of the gridiron and some other sports as well, with a Native American that is paying homage to these great athletes. It's Jim Thorpe and more coming up in just a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history. And welcome to another edition where we get to go sort of the outer bounds of football, not your normal, watching NFL and college football. We're going to talk about some individuals that had some great legendary events and places in history. And it's really kind of interesting. We have a guest tonight. He has a project called the NDN Project. His name is Bill Black. Bill Black, welcome to the Pig Pen.
All right, thanks a lot. I really appreciate being here. I have. I'll tell you, it's not NDN. If we put it all together, what does that say? Indian.
Indian. Okay.
Indian All-Stars. So, I'm not correcting you. I'm just clarifying because everybody says, "Oh, what does NDN stand for?" Well, it's just shorthand. It's Indian All-Stars, talking about great Native American athletes from the past and the present. That has kind of become my life's mission. Was something that I kind of came into my mind when I was in, I think, 7th grade. I got had to have some surgery on my nose of all things, but I was laid up for a while, and my dad bought me a book, the Jim Plunkett story. And people think Jim Plunkett, he was like Hispanic guy, right? I mean, because that was what he was really promoted as, first minority to win the quarterback to win the Super Bowl and stuff. His mom was half Cherokee. So,
I did not know that.
He's right, but a lot of people don't. So as a kid, I am part Native American here in Washington, and part of the Okanagan band of the Colville Confederated Tribes. And so as I was reading that book, I came across, oh, that's cool. He's an Indian dude. And at 12 years old, I didn't have any pictures of any Native American sports, or I didn't have posters of any Native Americans on my wall. I had Walter Payton, I had Steve Largent, I had Dennis Johnson from the Seattle Supersonics. I'm growing up in the Northwest. And so that got me thinking, well, where are all the Native guys? Where are all the Indian guys that we could look up to? There's got to be some. I knew about Jim Thorpe. Everybody kind of knows a little bit about Jim Thorpe, even if they don't know how incredibly talented and groundbreaking of an athlete he was. Everybody knows a little bit about him, but beyond that, it's like, 12-year-old kid, right? So that stuck in the back of my mind, and as time went on, I kind of started making a little mental list of, oh, that's cool. I was a big University of Washington fan. The first real football game I ever went to was a Husky game. So I knew a little bit about Sonny Sixkiller and actually got to meet him at one point for a brief moment. But so there's another guy. And then time went on, the list got a little longer. And then let's fast forward a lot of years, and I took a job where I'm currently employed in my day job. I'm a high school art teacher here in Omak, Washington. And about half of my students are Native American, because we are just right here, what we call the reservation. And I was looking around and noticing the kids coming in and out wearing Kobe Bryant jersey or Michael Jordan or Russell Wilson or whatever, and all these Native kids. And one day I just raised my hand. Didn't you guys know Jim Thorpe? A couple of them raised their kind of hand, said, well, didn't he play football or something? And so that was the real I guess, kicking the butt that I needed to do something with this list and this idea that I'd had for a long time. So that's kind of the basic genesis of Indian All-Stars, is to keep the memory, or maybe not even keep, but bring back the memory of these great Native athletes from the past to today's generation. Retell those stories, and then celebrate the current Native athletes that are doing great things in the world of sports. That's the Reader's Digest version of the genesis of Indian All-Star.
So that's I mean, that's very interesting to sit there. And I guess it's hard to appreciate that for most of the football fans and sports fans in the United States, of not having athletes that you can associate that look like you and come from the same heritage as you. And
Yeah,
so it's kind of a unique situation you're in, and I'm glad that you found some. Now I know in your reading some of the things that you put down, I think you sort of alluded to it. You came up with like 7 or 8, including like
and
Thorpe and Sonny Six Killer, I'm assuming. So who were some of the other ones you came up with originally?
of Native American athletes.
Yes.
Well, let's see. Um, I knew a little bit about, in baseball, Louis Sock Alexis, who
Okay.
was the very first Native American to play Major League Baseball, 50 years before Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. He played for the Cleveland Spiders in 1897,
Wow.
played 3 seasons in the major leagues, and he was big phenomenon. So he was one that jumped in my mind, but because I was kind of tuned into it a little bit. That wouldn't have been the first person I thought of. Johnny Bench, another one, in baseball. Of course, probably the greatest catcher that ever lived,
Right.
is Choctaw, and very proud of his native culture, and speaks about it quite a bit. So let's see who else. Now you put me on the spot. It's hard to think
Oh,
of
I'm
it.
sorry.
Um,
I didn't mean to do that,
well,
but
that's okay, but I should be able to answer that question, and I can at the moment. So, but there were a handful, because it was like you'd have to start digging to find them. So that's part of what I've done now, is taken this seriously and started digging and finding out, because for a long time it wasn't really cool to be Native American, right? So
yeah, I think
people that
Hollywood probably had something to do with that.
quite a bit, yeah, and government politics and all that stuff way
Mm.
back in the day. But now, looking back through the lens of history, we find out that some of these guys really had native heritage but played it down. So
Yeah, I guess when as a football historian, I love, and this program goes a lot into pre-World War II football. I'm enamored by turn of the century and 1920s, and like I told you earlier, I wrote a book about a 1903 team, which
right,
had a Native American on it.
right.
John Tech Matthews was the coach of the Franklin All-Stars for 3 years and sort of helped build that team together. And he's from San Marcos, Texas, and
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure what tribe or nationality of Native American he is, but I know he's definitely full Native American. So
That's
kind of interesting.
that's excellent. I'll have to dig into that, because when you told me about it, I didn't know.
Yeah, and it was
I'm constantly learning on this stuff too. So
and he had kind of a unique thing because Washington and Jefferson College, which is in Western Pennsylvania, just below Pittsburgh in Washington, PA, they they ended up recruiting him to come up and play football from Texas, which, think about that. This is like 1898,
yeah,
1899, to have somebody travel that far to come and play a game of football that was only, a couple decades old at that time, not even a couple decades old. And the
sure.
guy was stellar at what he did, and, sort of hung around up here and played pro football even. So
That's a
very
great
cool.
story. That I would love to find out more about him, because his sounds like his transition there was more of a a choice and a willing thing, whereas guys like Jim Thorpe or Joe Guyon or all the Carlisle guys or the Haskell guys, they didn't really have a say. They just, government came and took them, and
Yes.
the whole boarding school thing. But it's nice to hear that maybe somebody had a choice at the time. So that's a cool story. I'll have to dig into that.
Yeah. Well, that was the next thing I was going to go into, is probably the next group of folks that I can think of would be the Carlisle Institute, that fellows
Oh
that
yeah,
play there. I mean, you mentioned Thorpe, but you had Joe Guyon and Albert Exodine and uh,
Exendine, yep.
um,
Bemis
J-
Pierce, and
uh,
yeah,
you had one. I'm trying to think of the guy. Lone Star Dietz ended up being a coach, but he played at Carlisle, and
right.
Gus Welsh, and you had some really tremendous athletes that really Pop Warner. You can say what you want. He probably wasn't the kindest and biggest role model that these young men could have, but he put
But he
them in
knew football and could
positions to
win.
be great athletes and show off their athleticism and beat teams like Army and things like that at the
And
height of.
Harvard, and yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
Tremendous.
powerhouses of the day. Yeah. Yeah, there's a guy actually from here that played in the backfield with Thorpe. Alex Arcasa was from the Colville
Yes.
tribe from here. Yeah. He didn't play, he didn't go on and play pro ball. He came back here after he got done with school. He didn't move on, but
But he's
anyway,
definitely he's in the big bold letters for Carlisle football players. He was
right.
a big name for some. I think
Yeah.
he was a little bit before Thorpe even. I think he played in some of the
He
Exodine.
maybe a little crossover because they did play together for a couple of years. And I know that their
Yeah.
college careers were a little bit extended back in the day.
Yeah,
So
Thorpe started at like 14 and played like 8 years or something. I think it
yeah.
was. So
Yeah.
yeah, high school
Yeah.
and college were a little bit more blended, I think, back then.
Yeah, for sure. And particularly at that school because they had them from kindergarten till they were like 20.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Now, I guess maybe how about the Hominy Indians? Have you ever heard of that team? I mean,
no, yeah, yeah. That's quite a story. And I'm, I'm still learning about them. Information is kind of spotty, but I've been digging into them because I love that story. They were started out in what, like 1926, 25, somewhere in there,
hmm
as a like a local club team, and they would play like you know beer league baseball or beer league softball teams play the down the road, right? That was the
hmm
way that they kind of started out, but they were killing everybody, and they were hopelessly underfunded at the beginning. So they were trying to pay them, and they were doing well. And once they started building a little bit of a following in a tiny town, they could pay them a little bit, but it was like 100 at the height. It was like $100, $125 a game or something that the players would get.
hmm
Sometimes all the revenues that were made from the game would just barely cover paying the players. So the backers didn't make anything on the deal. But anyway, I'm kind of babbling on that, but it's a fun story. But they were really, really good. They ran off like, I don't know, 26 or 28 straight game
hmm
winning streak. And that's over 3 or 4 years because they didn't play that many games because there weren't that many people playing football. And
Yeah.
of course the kicker to that whole story is um, back in the day, the professional sports teams famously would do these barnstorming tours and go across the country playing these pickup games against, whatever, most famously in baseball, Babe Ruth touring barnstorming deals going around the world. But the world champion New York Giants come to town to pick up an easy payday, going to make some bank playing the Hominy Indians. We're going to play who?
Hmm.
And the Hominy Indians beat them.
Yeah, that's
At
unbelievable.
13-6, I think. Yeah.
Great.
And it wasn't even really that close. So yeah, it's a great story. Great story.
Yeah, it definitely is. That was came on the heels of Red Grange having, he comes in the NFL right out of college. He plays Thanksgiving Day for, the University of Illinois, joins the Chicago Bears the following Sunday, and after the season, it, goes on their exhibition barnstorming tour. It ends up saving the Giants in that year, 1925. Because the Giants were losing money like crazy, but Red Grange comes into the Polo Grounds and they have 70,000 people in there. So that's why
Yeah.
the next year New York wins the NFL championship, and they go on their own barnstorm. Hey, we can make money doing this too. and, but yeah,
Isn't that
there's a
amazing the impact that one guy could have? I mean, that's, we talk about Jim Thorpe, but that's why they signed him up to be the first president of what became the NFL, just because of name recognition alone. It's not because he was the smartest football guy or the smartest business guy, but he had the name recognition that would make other investors say, well, Jim Thorpe's in it, I guess we can put up some money too. So
Now, a good friend of mine, it's a professional football history researcher, PFRA member, like with myself. His great grandfather started a team. His great grandfather's name was Leo Lyons, and he started the Rochester Jeffersons, or one of the original APFA teams, which became the NFL
uh,
2 years later. And when
right.
Thorpe was the president, so Thorpe was with Canton, but
Mhm.
Thorpe would go and play exhibition baseball when it wasn't football season, and
Right.
there's some stories that Leo Lyons recorded of him and Thorpe having some conversations at baseball, games, and having, hey, I'm going to have a Native American over for dinner up in Rochester, and people are like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And come to find out, this is the great Olympian, Jim Thorpe, who just a few years
Yeah.
earlier winning gold medals over in Sweden or Stockholm, wherever the
Yeah.
Olympics were. So
A
very cool.
worldwide celebrity at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, probably he's got to be top 5 greatest athletes of all time
Oh,
worldwide,
absolutely.
with his accomplishments, that's for sure.
Well, Sports Illustrated said he was the greatest athlete of the 20th century. So I won't argue with him.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I can't even know of anybody I'd put above him, but without I don't
Yeah.
research it that far. I just talk about football, but I know when you're winning Olympic medals and then you're Mr. Football for your era,
Right.
that's pretty impressive.
Plus, Major League Baseball, and he played what 7 seasons in the major leagues, and he actually had a pretty darn good barnstorming basketball team that he put together.
Really?
Yeah, they go around and play these exhibition basketball games, so he could do it all. And he was a champion ballroom dancer of all things.
No kidding.
Jim Thorpe. Yeah.
Wow. I read somewhere not too long ago that he had a twin brother that he passed
Yeah.
at a young age when they were
Yeah. I
kids
think
or
when they were
something.
8 or 9,
Yeah, yeah,
he
that's
got
amazing.
pneumonia and died.
Can you imagine if there was 2 Jim Thorpes, or I'm not sure what his brother's name was, but if they were
No,
identical twins and both gifted like that, man, that could have
I
been
believe his name was Charlie, and
okay.
he got pneumonia and died. Um, I might have his age wrong, but somewhere 8 or 9, somewhere in
Yeah,
there,
yeah, that
and
sounds
it
about right.
devastated him.
Yeah,
It devastated him, and he never really quite got over it. It was always a big weight for him throughout the rest of his life. It's too bad.
yeah.
He did have a younger brother, uh, Jack, I think, um, who ended up playing with the Oorang Indians
Okay.
when Jim Thorpe was involved with that team. That's a whole nother funny story. Guy starts a football team to promote his dog kennel. What the heck? Right?
Right. Yeah.
I didn't even know a Oorang was a type of dog, but apparently it is. First time I came across that that name, I thought that it was some, you know, dumb promoter guy trying to make up a Native American sounding name and came up with it, but turns out it's a breed of dog. So that redeemed the name, I guess, a little bit for me because I was kind of down on it before that.
Right. Now, did you ever hear what they did with during the halftime shows of
Yeah, they put on this big kind of showy powwow event, and they'd shoot arrows and throw spears and do some dances, and yeah.
and they do walk the dogs out that they were trying to sell. Yeah,
Oh, that part I didn't know about.
yeah, that because
Um,
that's how they would promote their product was dogs. So
okay,
they would bring the dogs out and show them to the fan. Hey, look at this guy here. Maybe you like
okay,
to
well,
take
that's
him
good to
home.
know.
Probably those kind of things. So,
Because I did know that the all the Indian guys on the team would put on a little cultural display as part of the attraction as well. So, but the dogs, that's good. So,
yeah. Well,
take a
I
dog
didn't know.
home.
I didn't realize that they would do the cultural thing. That's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
interesting too.
yeah.
So,
They'd have
huh.
a little bit of, like I said, a little bit of shooting a bow and arrow, a little bit of throwing spears, and do some traditional dance stuff. But it's a little vaudeville and less authentic. But they were selling tickets and splitting the pot.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Football players are entertainers, just like
yeah,
not too far off from the actors and the vaudeville stars of the day. I'm
right.
sure. Yeah, very very
Going
interesting.
back to the Hominy Indians, there was a docudrama, I guess, made in like 2012, 2013, something like that, um, starring the native actor Adam Beach. It was called, uh, oh, it's escaping me at the moment. Um, I'm sorry. We'll have to look it up and put it in the notes or something. Uh,
Okay, no
but
problem.
but it was about the Hominy Indians and about their kind of their story and the formation of the team and stuff. And I guess now there's an effort to take that story and expand it into a like a Hollywood movie. And
Really,
so
very
yeah,
interesting.
it's in they're shopping it around in pre-production right now. I don't I just came across that information just a couple days ago, and I haven't been able to dig into it much, but I'd love to see that happen. I know the Jim Thorpe movie is in progress right now. And so anyway,
Yeah,
some current stuff going on, talking about these stories and helping my mission.
yeah, yeah, most definitely. Okay, now I'm seeing the top of your shirt, so I'm seeing Six Killer on
Oh,
there. So I'm
yep.
assuming. Okay, now I see the helmet. So tell us a little bit about this gentleman. He's
Sunny Six
more of a
Killer.
recent athlete.
Yes. 1970. Uh, he he's Cherokee native, and he grew up in Oregon. His parents moved from Oklahoma to Oregon when he was little, um, but came to fame with my beloved Washington Huskies. Revolutionized the passing game there and set all kinds of school records. Fabulous, fabulous passing quarterback. Um, and it's kind of funny because the type of offense and the coach that they had at the time, famous Jim Owens, was a run heavy and throw the ball at only if your life depended on it kind of guy.
Mhm.
But then come in and this kid can throw it all over the place, and he was a national sensation at the time, on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and setting all these kinds of records and all this kind of stuff, and really exciting to watch. Um, he was so beloved, particularly here in the Northwest, that somebody actually wrote a song about him called "The Ballad of Sonny Six Killer." And if you haven't heard it before, you got to search it out. It's you can find it on YouTube. It's
I definitely will.
it's it's full of the kind of the tomahawk chop kind of music in the background, but it's a fun story, and it talks about him. Um, I won't spoil the song, but check it out. The Ballad of Sonny Six Killer. It's pretty fun. Uh,
Yeah, he definitely has one of the coolest and most memorable names of a football
Oh,
player
isn't
you
it?
can come. Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's pretty rad.
Yeah, yeah. I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Uh, and uh, and that's really something that was great about him, and particularly for me because there's one of those guys, right? One of those guys that I'm looking for, and
And he plays for your
so
team.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Couldn't
yeah,
be any better.
right.
At the same time, Sonny Six Killer is at Washington. Jim Plunkett is at Stanford. So they played each other 2 or 3 times in college. So we got two of my Indian All Stars um, team members that faced off a few times.
Now,
That's
did you know that Plunkett was Native American at that time?
well, that was about when I read the book. So
Was it
yeah,
okay? Okay, so so that's okay. That really makes it cool. Yeah.
yeah, yep, yep, pretty cool. And I found a couple of game films and TV broadcasts of a couple of those games, and fun to go back and watch them duke it out. So pretty
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Um, yeah, so Sonny Six Color Pro didn't quite work out. He uh, he got a tryout with the Rams, but he was stuck behind 2 or 3 other guys that um, he's spoken about this. I've seen interviews where he's talking about. He said, "Yeah, their game was just different than mine," and so he played in the World Football League. Played for
Okay.
a couple teams, Hawaii, the Hawaiians, and one other one I don't remember. Was it Portland? Maybe I don't remember. But then he had a cup of coffee in the CFL before he hung it up. But then he moved on to bigger, better things. He does a lot of sports broadcasting these days, particularly for Husky radio stuff.
Oh,
And
very cool.
then, of course, he was in the original um, Longest Yard. He had a bit part in the Longest Yard playing the Indian on the
Oh, really?
on the
That
Cons,
was him
yeah,
in that
on the Cons football
the
team.
The Burt Reynolds
Yeah,
original version.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Huh.
yeah. You'll
Oh,
you'll you'll see him a little bit in there.
okay.
So yeah, so there's
Huh.
Sonny Six Killer.
Yeah, boy, yeah, it's quite a legendary name and legendary player. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
glad we
for
were able
sure.
to talk about him. So I guess sort of off on a side note, now with Washington joining the Big Ten, we're going into the era of, I guess, super conferences and 12
Hmm.
team playoffs, which I like the 12 team playoff thing, but okay, I don't get to talk to too many people out in the West Coast. What's your opinion of the Pac-12 dissolving and joining these different
I
conferences
hate
that
it.
are,
I hate it. I hate the fact that they're all chasing big dollar and the Pac-12 should have never gone away. They just botched up their whole TV, their broadcast rights deal, and they tried to throw something together with Apple TV of all things. What are you talking about?
Mhm.
You know, a third of the country might see it. You're trying to reach the whole country. That's the whole idea of these big things, right? Just horrible mismanagement, and it was, we could get into the whole thing talking about the transfer portal and the NIL and all that stuff. I think that all of that, there's too much big money in college football these days. And I think it has been a big detriment. So,
I concur with your sentiment there, because that's what the beautiful thing about college football and high school football is, because the kids were playing it because they love the game and
yeah,
they wanted to aspire to something higher and then get paid for it. That's your reward. You play good as a youngster, and then you advance, and maybe you're one of the fortunate ones that makes an NFL team and makes some big money and you're a superstar. That's
right.
the American dream. Now when you're
Absolutely.
getting I just heard a guy that is in the NFL now, he's making more money from his college jersey from last year selling than he is in the NFL right now. And it's,
Yeah.
which
I
is
was
good
just
for
going to,
them. I mean, college is making a lot of money and they should give the kids something so they can go have a pizza or something without having to worry about, you know,
or,
getting
or be
losing
able to
their
have a
right to
job.
play. Right, right. But getting, the one young lady that's the gymnast is my daughter who's in college was telling me she's making like $1 million a month or something by her name, image, and likeness on different
Right.
products, so it's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely a different world. And it's the tough thing. I mean, Deion Sanders' kid is making a ton of money now, and he's going to get a pay cut when he tries to make it to the NFL. I don't know if he's actually going to be that great when he gets there, but right now he's making a lot more money than he will for his rookie contract for sure. And
Yeah.
it's like spoiling him for what's supposed to be, like you said, the big payoff and I finally made it. Right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's the
Remember back in the day, the
satisfaction.
first thing they did when they signed their pro contract and got their bonus, they paid off their parents' house. Remember
Yeah.
those days?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Now they own their parents' house, and hey, mom and dad, you don't behave, you're getting kicked out,
Yeah.
So, yeah, every parent's dream.
Yeah,
So,
right.
so I'm sorry. Well, let's get back into your project. So,
Sure.
so how is there like a place where folks can go in like a website or something so people
Oh
can see
yeah,
some of your
yeah,
research?
absolutely.
Yeah,
My
go ahead.
my website is ndnallstars.com, and I have a little bit of the story about why I started, basically what I told you. I have my all-time roster of all the different sports, all the basketball, auto racing, gymnastics, ice skating. Um, it's amazing to see how many different fields of athletics that Native Americans have done well in. And so, yeah, we have a kind of a running blog where I talk about, my opinion of some of these guys, why I picked them on the team and what's cool about them. Then I have a little series called Indian All Stars First, talking about the first, Louis Alexis, the first baseball player, the first professional baseball player. Talk about Frank Pierce, the first Native American to compete in the Olympics. It wasn't Jim Thorpe; it was another guy.
Oh, really?
He didn't finish. He ran the marathon in 1904 in St. Louis and didn't finish the race, but he was the first Native American in the Olympics. And so I have a bunch of that. Then I just started a new thing. It's called video archaeology, where I'm just scouring the internet to find any video of that I think is worthwhile to share about any of my all-star team. So that's kind of a fun one.
Yeah.
And then have some merchandise to help fund this effort that's available through the shop on the site. But yeah, this thing is growing kind of faster than I can keep up with it, but I'm really enjoying digging into this kind of stuff, and then having my podcast as well, the Indian All Stars podcast, where I interview some of the current people. I've talked with a few football players, one that is currently playing, one that is recently retired. Talked with a few other athletes, but then I've also interviewed some authors that have written books about some of these Indian All Stars on my roster too. So it's pretty fun and informative. And so that's kind of what we got at the website.
Well, that is definitely pretty cool. And folks, again, we're going to put if you're driving a car or something, don't worry, in the show notes of this podcast and on pigskinddispatch.com and the YouTube channel, we'll put in links to get to Bill's www.ndnallstars.com website, and you can appreciate what he's doing. And I assume there's links to get into your podcast from there as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And the name of the podcast is the same too. It's the Indian.
Yes,
Okay.
Indian All Stars. Trying to keep it all as easy to find as possible.
Okay, so again, if you're driving that car and we get done with this podcast, tell your smart device to go to that podcast and check out Bill and some of his guests there too.
Yeah,
And
appreciate the plug.
learn about these great Native American athletes that are from the past, present, and maybe some from the future too, if you're talking to some of the younger folks out there too. So.
There's a kid that I'm in contact with right now who is an auto racer in Minnesota, and he's like 12.
Wow.
And he's yeah.
He's not even supposed to be driving a car for 4
I know,
years.
right?
Come on, Bill.
Yeah. So
Wow.
we will have some for the future as well. Yeah.
All right, very cool. Future NASCAR man right there. I can tell. So, Bill, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing these stories and telling us about these great athletes and telling us about your project a little bit. And if there's anything we can do in the future, you have some big events or something come up, let us know and we'll have you on again and help you promote that. So appreciate you.
Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it, and thanks for your time, and likewise. I would like to have you come on and talk about your book. I mean, on mine, I think that'd be great.
Yes, so most certainly. Yeah, I'd be delighted to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you. I appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you down the road.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.